Why would anyone judge a survivor? And how did that make you feel?
It made me feel alive. You know, it was like I did something that made someone feel good. I think not many people get to go through life and feel appreciated.
All right. When the show ends, which is in just about a week and some days, when we begin our post-show analysis, I'm going to be dedicating one video to Big Brother. That's Biggie himself. There's a lot to unpack about Biggie. There's a lot to be said about Biggie. And everything I have to say will be said on that video. All right? Yeah. I watched today's diary sessions. Big Brother had diary sessions with, I think, 4 housemates, if I'm not wrong. Yes, 4 housemates. And there were a lot of things I observed about Big Brother. And it's not just today. You know, it's been a long time coming since this entire season started. So as I said, there's going to be that video, post-show analysis, one video dedicated to Big Brother, about Big Brother. A lot will be said and you all will see. All right? So watch out for that video. Now, back to today's diary sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, woo! Today's diary sessions were quite hectic, emotionally draining for me as an individual, all right? And I don't know. Zita had a diary session. Imisi had a diary session. Ruboy and Faith had their diary sessions. Now, the pattern with which today's housemates were called into the diary room, if you had watched on Sunday's diary session, you will understand why. But what I did not understand was why Zita had a diary session again today. Everybody was going to follow that pattern. Aside Zita, the other housemates that had their sessions did not have their diary session on Sunday. You know, their usual pre-eviction diary session. Yes, these 3 people did not have their diary session, but Zita was the first to have hers on Sunday. So I did not understand why she had a diary session again today. So maybe the rest of the house will have theirs between tomorrow and Thursday. Yes, we'll just have to wait and see. But as I said, these people had their diary sessions today, and especially Faith and Imisi's diary session was really emotionally draining for me. A lot was shared between these 2 people. You see, every time I look at these 2 individuals, it's like they are twin flames that operate in 2 different capacities, but they have so much in common. Yeah, they have so much in common. But then it's just really sad how one gets more grace than the other. But I'm going to leave it at that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into this video, all right? And we will unpack the details of these housemates diary sessions with Big Brother, all right? Now, a lot was said, a lot was shared, especially with Faith's diary session. Faith's diary session is usually like a 2-hour-long movie. Very interesting movie, by the way, right? So I will not be able to tell you everything verbatim that he shared with Big Brother, but I'm just going to try as much as possible to touch here and there of the different things that he shared with Big Brother during his diary session. So please make sure you watch this video to the end. Don't skip out in any part. There's a lot you do not want to miss out on, all right? And of course, more importantly, I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. And you're all welcome to my channel. My name is Gloria Elijah. This is Frankly Speaking with Gloria Elijah, and I call myself the girl with the T. Let's get into the rest of the video. Now, beginning with Big Brother's questions to the housemates. I liked the questions. The questions were very thought-provoking questions, that made the housemates to talk, to share, to share. I really liked the questions. Now, beginning with Zita, there was a particular question Big Brother had asked that, is there any housemate in the house right now that she thought would have left the house? In other words, housemates that, surprisingly have survived eviction up until this moment. And she had mentioned Faith. She said she's quite surprised that Faith is still in the house, not in a bad way, but because she finds him to be, okay, she felt like the viewers might not like his character because he's a fresh character, like he's a different character, that this is the first time she's encountering a character like Faith in the entire BBNaija franchise. He's a new character. So she thought the viewers would not like him, because aside the fact that he's very smart, he's also very, very annoying, very chaotic personality. And then she went on to cite instances where Faith had actually irritated her, where he had actually upset her. She went on and on and on. She had a lot to say, which is quite surprising to me, ladies and gentlemen, because when you look at the dynamics of Faith and Zita's friendship, their relationship as friends, you will see that Faith has really held this girl down. She's really given this girl so much grace. The first week when she was head of house, when she was kind of struggling, to find her balance, Faith was there. He was the one that kept on encouraging her, advising her, pushing her, and just giving her all the support that she needed, both morally and otherwise. And after her tenure, he had congratulated her, had, given her all her flowers and accolades, encouraged her to continue and do more. You know how positive Faith can be with people. He had been all of that. And when she was crashing out about the gossip coven in the house, Faith was the person that she ran to because she knew that he was the only person that would not judge her sentiment, that he was the only person that would listen to her with a neutral ear and, allow her that safe space to really vent and crash out as much as she wanted to without judging her. And she was very sure that Faith is that one person that would not go and spill whatever she said. And you see, this is the thing with most of these housemates. When they need a blank book, someone that will not judge them, someone that will not, kiss and tell, they run to Faith. Someone that will be brutally honest with them, they run to Faith. But then, unfortunately, they do not also extend that same measure of grace to this young man. So, when she was speaking about Faith, guys, I was just smiling and shaking my head. I'm like, wow, such is life. That's the nature of human beings. Human beings will need you when they need you, and then when they feel like they do not need you, or maybe when you just commit just one slip up, every other thing that you've done that's good, it goes down the drain, and then they maintain their perception about you based off of that one mistake, that one slip, or that one misconception that they have about you. But anyways, from all she said, what I really, really liked was the fact that she said that Faith was a fresh character. And guys, she did not lie. She did not lie. During our post-show analysis, I will buttress this particular point because there's a lot to it, all right? So I'm not going to waste your time on that. Now, the end of our diary session was what really got me. Before we get to the end, her reaction to Sultana's decision not to give anybody, or not to save anybody, not to give anybody immunity last night during the live nomination process, it was just completely flawed. Although she had a point, the thing about you give to receive in this life, this is how life works. And I'm like, well, this is not really how life works. Sometimes you give and give until you're empty, and at the end of the day, you receive nothing in return. And this is a competition anyways. So Sultana, even though it was the best decision for her to have played a fair game by not granting anybody that immunity to the finals, she also had to look out for herself. She also had to look out for her relationships and friendships. She had the friendship, she has a relationship with Jason J and a friendship with Isabella. So why would Zita expect her to give it to at least one person? Why? Because according to Zita, after the house, everybody might not remember that she decided to play fair. But if she had given it to one of her friends, at least 3 weeks from now, they would have remembered that she actually granted them immunity. And I'm like, well, girl is still so young. She still has a long way to go. I think she's just 21, if I'm not wrong. She still has a long way to go. She has a lot of learning and unlearning to do. So when she begins to learn, she will understand that life does not necessarily work that way. Yeah. Now, fast forward towards the end of our diary session when she had expressed her her feelings to Big Brother. She was not feeling good. And she feels like she's been comparing herself to people a lot lately. And Big Brother told her that actually it's been since the second week that she's been comparing herself to people a lot. And then he had gone ahead to encourage her, advise her to, see herself more. Because, guys, we need to give Zita a credit. We need to give her her flowers. This girl has been quite competitive in the arena and in every other task around the house. Yes, even though she's not that much of a shouter or a fighter in the house. When you talk about one of those housemates that has really earned their immunity on the many occasions that she's gotten it, that one person is Zita. So I loved Big Brother's words of encouragement to her. And I really hope that it helps her in her future endeavors. Yes. Now, quickly, moving on to Imisi's diary session. Ladies and gentlemen, Imisi's diary session I had mixed feelings about it. And I'll tell you why. All right. Now, there was something she shared with her team members for their wager task yesterday in the garden. She had shared about how she was raped twice. I had listened to her tell that story. And I felt really bad for her. I'm not going to lie. I mean, come on. When a survivor... Is there a survivor? When a survivor shares their story, you really want to applaud them for their bravery to even be able to tell that story. When a survivor, shares about their trauma, you really want to be there for them. You really want to show support and all of that, all of those good things that comes with that, right? But when Imisi shared her story, I wasn't judgmental of her story. I mean, who am I? She's the survivor. She has every right to choose the time, the place, the when, the whys. She should tell her story because it is a story. It is her trauma. So she has every right to go ahead and share it however way she deems fit. However, for me as an analyst of the show and not just a viewer, I was doing a lot of calculations in my head. Yeah. So first of all, let's look at the situation, the context of her sharing that story. First of all, it was after the housemates had received the brief for their wager presentation for the week. Housemates had been instructed, to be divided into groups, right? And I think the theme is expressions of art, if I'm not wrong. And so they had the fashion and style team, they have the dance team, and then they have, is it the musical team or which one? Is it the acting team? Guys, I can't remember, but they had actually grouped themselves. So for Imisi's group, she had gone ahead to tell her story. And according to her, she wanted her team to recreate that story or maybe use her story for the wager. Now, that's a brave thing to do, if you ask me. It's a brave thing. And I think it's a brave thing because if they decide to recreate that story or maybe use the storyline for whatever they decide to present or perform, it will mean that Imisi will probably have to relive that whole experience. It will mean a fresh traumatic experience for her, right? Now, what I did not understand is why she really wanted to put herself through that. Now, I know a lot of you already have the answer to that question. A lot of you would say, oh, well, it is her story. It is her situation. So probably her own way of finding closure is to relive that whole experience on live TV. But then if you think about it as an analyst of the show, it makes you wonder, why on live TV? Another question you ask is, why? Why exactly this week? This week that's leading up to the finale. Why? Why? I know a lot of Imisi's fans are gonna crucify me for this question, why? But it has to be asked. And the reason I ask this question is this. Early this year, there was BBNaija season 5, the South African version of Big Brother Naija. There was a particular female housemate. Her name is KB. KB came into the house, very vibrant, very loud, very vocal. She was quite the bully. She was a bully. Very, very feisty, a fighter, a warrior, a very chaotic person. Like, you know, the same strategy Imisi is using. You know, you come into the house, you are fighting because you believe that that is what is going to earn you the viewers' votes and possibly win the money. And it was kind of working for her. And there were a lot of things she got away with. You know, the way Imisi is getting away with a lot of things with Big Brother. This one too was kind of like, you know, a production favorite. She was getting away with a lot of things. She was doing a lot. But when she came into the house, yeah, she came and she told one or two persons that her strategy is to be in a triangle, in a shipping triangle. She needed to work together with a female housemate that would join her in dragging a male housemate. That is the storyline she wanted to create. So she found a target, a male housemate. And already, I think from the second night or whatever, they were already cuddling, they were already kissing, they were already smooching, they were already doing stuff, right? She was very, very quick in getting into her script. And the triangle situation, she was already, you know, keying in the other female housemate into the whole thing. Now, that was going on. Then, afterwards, I can't remember the exact timeline now because it's been since January. But anyways, she went ahead to share her story. She said she was raped twice as well. She was raped. And because of that, she had to go into prostitution to foot her bills, you know. Now, as at the time of the show, while she was in the house, she was actually in university. She was yet to graduate at the time. So she said she had to go into prostitution, that she went into being a call girl and whatnot. So there was a lot of judgment from viewers, from her fellow housemates as well. Now, hold on a second. For someone like you that has a story like this, and you came into the house and instantly you are doing all these sexual activities with this particular guy, how do you want people to handle your story? How do you want people to take your story, right? I mean, we understand that it's a case of consent, but then there was a lack of consent in your grape situation. But then you are doing all of these things and you expect people to give you sympathy for your story. How does it work? Now, she was asked by two housemates that, okay, hold on a second. You know that this is a competition, right? And people are likely to forge stories. People are likely to tell certain sub-stories just to gain sympathy from viewers and their fellow housemates. So they were asking her that, okay, why are you telling us this story exactly? Why do you choose to share the story here? I mean, they outrightly asked her. And she said that because she's seeking support from the females in the house, that she expects the females to mobilize themselves, rally around her and show her support. Now, these females that she was actually referring to, she had actually bullied some of them. She had actually quarreled with some of them. She had actually fought with some of them. And in all of those situations, she had said the meanest things to these people. She had said the most derogatory things to these people. Like, she had body shamed people. She had slut shamed people. She had done a lot of things to these people. But then there is the same person that came with her story. I mean, as sad as the story was, she came with her story and said that she was actually seeking support from the female housemates. Ladies and gentlemen, how would you have handled that whole situation? Oh, and her story did not end there. She got disqualified. Why did she get disqualified? It was a case of sexual harassment. Yep. She was kind of led on by a female housemate that's a friend, but then that same friend sort of set her up, right? And then she kept on making sexual advances at a particular male housemate. And the male housemate is best friends with this female housemate that is also a friend. And then they had conversations and then they started spreading the whole thing around. And you see, the thing went out of hand. So guys in the house started complaining that she was sexually harassing them, always throwing herself at them, trying to kiss them, trying to touch them inappropriately, that she even touched maybe one or two of them inappropriately. And the South African society does not condone such situations. For them, cancel culture is very, very quick at their fingertips. And so she was cancelled. And people were clamoring for her to be disqualified, and she got disqualified. And that was how her story ended that season. I think she was disqualified in the 3rd week or the 4th week. I can't remember, but she was disqualified quite early in the season. Now, this is someone that has a grape story. She would cry. There was one time that she cried and cried and cried, and then she said somebody was insulting her with it, and then she slumped and acted like she passed out. But guess what? People did not even budge. Nobody, ninjas, nobody even came to her rescue. The same way she pretended like she fainted, that was the same way they carried her up, and she got up and then she carried herself to bed. So she would use her grape story to cry and talk and seek sympathy, but then she would still go around bullying people, being mean to people, being very, very offensive and just very mean to people. And at the end of the day, got disqualified for sexual harassment. So when Imisi was sharing her story yesterday, and also in the diary room, although she did not go in details of her story, in the diary room, and Big Brother was consoling her, encouraging her, telling her all the right words, encouraging her, giving her strength and power. And I had no words. But I would love to hear your thoughts about this, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comment section. All right? Now, in continuation, still based on Imisi's diary session, Big Brother had asked her a question about, if there was a housemate that she does not see eye to eye with, and if there was an opportunity under the right circumstances for reconciliation, would she consider reconciliation? She had mentioned Faith and said, no, there would never be a reconciliation. Now, when she said that, I smiled. I smiled because earlier today, this morning, there was a conversation between Imisi and Kola about Faith. Kola was the one that brought up that conversation, right? And Kola was applauding her for being disciplined enough to no longer respond to Faith, that Faith has been poking Imisi. And then he was applauding Imisi for maintaining calm and not entertaining all of his pokings. And Imisi, of course, latched onto that immediately. Oh yes, that she has made up her mind. She's not going to talk to the guy anymore. That she doesn't even send him. She doesn't care about him. That she will never ever talk to him. Never ever respond to him on her own. She was just talking and talking and talking. And then she said, what did I do to him? This guy has called me names. He has insulted me. He has said all manner of derogatory things at me. What did I do to him? I didn't even do him anything. The moment she said that, guys, quickly, my mind went on a spiral mode. I was spiraling in my head. And the multitude of things that kept on rolling in my head was the different scenarios that Imisi had provoked Faith. The different scenarios that Imisi had gossiped about Faith and had plotted and conspired on how to make this boy's lives miserable. Not just inside the diary room now, with Biggie giving his, subtle approval for content's sake, for traffic's sake, for engagement's sake, for entertainment's sake, but also because just recently, yesterday, the day before yesterday, the previous day, she still gossips about Faith. She still reports Faith to people. Even without this guy even looking in her direction, she still talks about this guy. So listening to her, yapping to Kola about, what did I do to him? What did I do? I said, Imisi, what did you do to Faith? You did a multitude of things to this boy. You did a whole lot. And worse is before you started doing what you wanted to do to this boy, you told Big Brother about it. You gave Big Brother a heads up. And Big Brother allowed you. So ladies and gentlemen, if we're going to be fair with ourselves, you and I will agree that Imisi has received the utmost protection this season to do whatever she wants to do with Faith or against him. All for the sake of content, all for the sake of entertainment, all for the sake of pulling traffic to the show. And this one is on Big Brother. She's done a lot. A lot. Do you want us to make a whole video where we begin to list out everything that this girl has done to this guy? Because if I do a video, trust me, there's receipts upon receipts. And I have all the receipts. I'm not even kidding you. I have all of them. And I'm talking about the ones that the camera showed us. So I'm not talking about the ones that the cameras did not show us. If I decide to sit down one day and compile a video, I'm telling you, shame will catch all of you now where they hype this nonsense. In other words, those ones that keep on saying that she's innocent, you'll be ashamed of yourselves because there's a lot of receipts. So I'm just going to leave it at that. All right? But I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, quickly, moving on to Faith's diary session. Okay, now, on to Faith's diary session. Faith's diary session was a lot. Guys, it was lengthy. And I'm going to be frank with all of you. If I decide to touch on everything he talked about, this video is going to be ridiculously lengthier than it is already. So I'm going to try as much as possible to just pick and summarize, all right? Now, he had explained why he did not defend his head of house title. Ladies and gentlemen, it made so much sense to me now. Now, he won the head of house. Great work. He put in a lot of effort. I did a video about that. Now, during the head of house challenge, guys, the challenge was something that Faith could have literally closed his eyes and aced instantly. And I'm speaking about the first stage of the head of house challenger. Yeah? It required the housemates to formulate words from certain letters of the alphabet. And according to Big Brother, if you formulate a 4-letter word, you get 1 mark, 1 point, you know, so as many letter words you formulate, you get more points. If you formulate, I think about 15 letter words or 16, you get about probably 20 points or thereabout. And that sets you ahead in the game. I looked at Faith's board. This guy wrote so many 4-letter words, like it was so deliberate, and I was really mad because I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, Faith, are you okay? Are you mad? Is there something wrong with you? I was losing my shit over here. I was so pissed because for me, I felt like that was a deliberate self-sabotage. Also because Faith is very smart. The task he did that got him to win the head of house challenge on Sunday, it was way more mentally tasking than that one. Also, Faith is a medical doctor. He's in the medical profession. And we all know that in the medical profession, there are so many unnecessarily elongated words like staphylococcus. Like, I don't want to mention some names, but there are just so many. Like necrophilia, you know, all those plenty, mental, psychological terminologies. There's so many of them. And I was wondering, like, Faith, this was your time to shine, to really prove to people that, yes, you are very verbose. You have a massive vocabulary bank in your head that you can just literally just teleport all those words and put on that board. But Faith literally wrote, I think 90% of the words he wrote were all 4-letter words. He even wrote cunt. And then there was only 2 6-letter words, if I'm not wrong. And then I knew something was wrong. Because it was just so lackadaisical about it. And that was how he missed out on that part. His competitive spirit, you could tell that it was dead. It was not there. So he explained during his diary session today that the truth of that day is that he had mentally checked out. You know, like always being called the competitive guy, the guy that is very, very dogmatic, unmovable, unshakable in his beliefs and ways. So he decided that, okay, you know what? he should just have fun with the challenge, right? And that was exactly what he did. So he said he had mentally checked out. So he just allowed himself to just, so he did not pay attention. He just did whatever. And he knew that, in fact, he said before the challenge, he knew he was not going to be able to defend it because he had mentally checked out. He was not okay mentally. He said for some time now, he had been struggling mentally. So before they went into the arena, he had told Mensen that if there was anything Mensen needed from the fridge, he should go ahead and eat it and carry it because he's not sure he's going to defend his head of house title. And that was what happened. So when he explained the whole thing, it made more sense because I knew that Faith would never not be able to formulate 16-letter words to earn a 20 point. Never. There's been way more challenges that are tougher than that, so it made more sense, and that was all the clarity I needed. And he said he was kind of upset with himself at first, for not winning it, but then he decided that, what, let me just chill, and he feels bad about it because that would have been his one way to get to the finals. But then there was something that consoled him. It was the belief that with the way he is, how weird, how quirky and all whatnot, with all of his flaws, he's still in the house. It means there's a reason, there's something keeping him in that house. And if he's going to still be in that house, he will be there. If not, then all the best to himself and everybody else, And I'm like, okay, well, fair enough. Because sometimes housemates, because they do not know what's happening on the outside, they're just inside the house doing what they can do to survive in the game. And that's what Faith has been doing. Now, he also talked about how Thelma's eviction shocked him. He thought she was like one of the strongest contenders. He thought she was going to win. He also talked about how Joanna's eviction surprised him. He had explained why he did not stand up to hug her. He said he was angry at himself. It wasn't even about Ebuka's question, that Joanna had been saying almost that whole day that she knew she was going home. She knew she was going home. So he would have spent the whole day having conversations with her. But instead, he was playing pool. So the moment it was announced that she was evicted, he was so angry at himself that it felt like, no, it was not just right to hug her goodbye. He didn't want her to go because he didn't want it to be real, So she had left, and later on, Kebaba told him that he was not being nice by not hugging her. But then he was like, oh, actually, that's true. But then he was caught up in his feelings and his emotions and realizing later on that, oh, he had actually did wrong. So he hopes that she understands that it's nothing. It was just him beating himself up for not spending all the time that Sunday with her, despite the fact that she had the feeling that she was going to be evicted. Now, he had gone ahead to say a lot of sweet things about Joanna, which I cannot repeat because I think we already know, but he crowned it all by saying that Joanna made his life bearable in Big Brother's house. She was always fighting his battles, even sorting out issues that he never knew he had behind his back. And for that, Joanna can never ever do any wrong in his eyes. About Joanna and Jason J's situation, that he doesn't even care because they are both adults. And even the day they had that conversation to do whatever they did beneath the sheets, he had heard the conversation. He knew it was going to happen. So he wasn't really bothered, because for him, whatever, they are all adults. They can do what they want to do. So he cleared the air based on that. Now, Big Brother had asked him the question of if there's any housemate in the house that he has issues with, and if in the right circumstances there was room for reconciliation. And he had mentioned Zita. Guys, Faith did not talk about Imisi, which was quite interesting. And I'm glad he did not because you know what would have happened. But anyways, it was about Zita. And he said he and Zita almost ended their friendship in Big Brother's house today. And that is because Zita had mentioned something about she's just managing him. And for him, no. If you are just managing me and you say you're my friend, then there's no point of the friendship. If you're my friend, I'm not perfect, you are not perfect. I have my flaws, you have your flaws. So I'm managing you, or rather I'm accepting you the way you are. So you cannot come and tell me that you are managing me. It makes it look like you don't really like me, but you're just there with me for whatever reason best known to you. So he had told Zita that look, it's either we end the friendship or nothing. He doesn't believe in friends managing friends. It seems very unfair. If I'm able to condone all of your excesses, why can't you give me that grace? That was Faith's argument. So he said, okay, that they had decided that, okay, fine, they will just allow things to see how it goes. Maybe their friendship might not work inside the house, but they will see if it will work outside the house. And you know, maybe if you don't see me all the time, maybe I'll be palatable to you. Maybe you would see some good in me at least. And I said, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Because even the Zita that is talking, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've analyzed this before, that it just felt so unfair. The way Zita crucifies Faith at every given opportunity, looking at the fact that this is one guy that really stood firm for her. Anyways, that is that. There was a question of if there was any housemate or he thought would not have stayed longer in the game. You know, housemate that he thought would have been evicted. And he mentioned Isabella and K Bobo. Yes, he said that for Isabella, after Kaikumi left, she sort of changed, her energy dropped. But it's quite interesting that she's still in the house, that it's a good thing. It means she was able to pick herself back up. He explained a couple of other things as well. For K Bobo, it felt like Kibo was not going to survive because the guy is just doing his thing, just cooking for people, taking care of people, you know, but the guy has survived this long. And Kibo is the one person that is genuinely happy about that is in, you know, in the house this week and possibly going to make it to the finals because it proves that people like Kibo, who does not necessarily have to be dramatic all the time, can also survive in a show like Big Brother. That he doesn't watch the show. And so people have been telling him that, well, if he had been watching the show, then he would have really understood what the viewers like. But for him, he genuinely doesn't even know what the viewers really, really like. So he's just living his life, you know, as each day comes. Yeah. And yeah, the rest of Faith's diary session, he spent it, he cried, he spent it crying, talked about culture. He said a lot about his connection with culture, talking about culture and all of that. And he cried a lot. And Big Brother, you know, tried to encourage him. But in trying to encourage Faith, there was a bit of a bite to the encouragement. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. For me, I'm thinking, Big Brother, if you want to encourage this boy, encourage him. If you want to chastise him, chastise him. Why do you have to put encouragement and chastisement, mix it all up, and then it just kind of reduces the essence of what? But anyways, it wasn't that much of a big deal. But I'm just a very, very perceptive person, you know, I'm very, very sensitive like that. So when Big Brother says something that there's a possibility that everybody would miss, BBNaija would not miss it. So I was able to notice that. But Big Brother was quite generous with his accolades to Faith, you know, applauded him for how he handled the Friday wager task, gave him all of his accolades and, you know, also encouraged him as well for being an exceptional individual and to give himself more grace, you know, for being the great person that he is. So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is as much as I can try to summarize these housemates diary session. I'm going to stop talking now because I would love to hear your thoughts. The comment section below. So please go ahead and share, and I'll see you guys on another episode of Frankly Speaking with BBNaija. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing evening. Bye.